This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week we're talking with Lake Tribe Brewing out of Tallahassee, Florida. I am Tim Dennis, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim, joining us today, we have Jesse Ross, a co-founder and head brewer of Lake Tribe. And we're going to talk about starting really small as a brewery, being a family-run brewery, and perhaps we'll get into a little talk about hop farming and maybe black IPAs.
Who knows?
You know, Jesse, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how's the new year starting off for you?
Well, it's kind of something where I'm waiting to see how this year is going to go relative to last year, but so far, so good.
I think everybody came into 2021 with a positive attitude, big hopes, but, you know, we got to remember it's, there's a joke that will relate to both of us here, Jesse. People say that North Florida is a lot like South Georgia. And so I think that the end of 2021 it's a lot like the end of 2020. So we just have to wait here and see how these things go.
Cautiously optimistic, but
Right.
a little gun shy.
Everybody comes in the new year with the best attitude. I remember coming into 2020 talking about the roaring 20s and everybody throwing their parties and all that. And,
Oh, the Gatsby parties. It
Yeah.
was such a big deal. Yeah.
and then 3 months in, that was it. So
over.
yes, Brian, how has your new year started?
So far, it's been pretty good. I mean,
Okay.
I've been busy. I'm working a lot. So, I mean, I can't complain about that too much. A lot of people aren't. So, I kicked things off with the very first beer of the new year was a Drew Fontaine Oud Goose, season 16-17 blend 12. It was quite nice. It was a little bubbly. It was the perfect
A little
beer.
bubbly, a
Yeah,
little
it was
sparkly.
nice.
Sure.
Nice. And then I followed that up with a 750 of CBS from 2018. So
Okay. Not quite as light and bubbly.
yeah, exactly. Because you never know. I was preparing for the worst. So it's 2021. This is one more than 2020. It could be one more worse
One
than
more worse.
2020.
That's
Yeah.
right. Jesse, did you ring in the new year with any special beers?
We bring in the new year by brewing our once-a-year brewed triple IPA, Young Chief.
All right. We've been talking a lot about the triple
Yeah.
IPAs. We're seeing a lot more of those lately. And something I think, Brian mentioned the black IPAs, triple IPAs and black IPAs. They're so hot right now.
Coming back so hot.
Yes. I have a confession. Do you know what I drank on New Year's Eve?
I do not.
Nothing. I had no
What?
alcohol. Well, I'd partied a good bit before because we had a studio session not long
Oh,
before
yeah.
New Year's Eve and that. So I just took it easy. I made chili. And I took it easy. That was my New Year's Eve celebration.
Now, did you have, what is it, the good luck meal of the new year?
No, and let me tell you why. You're supposed to have,
Oh, no.
here in the dirty South, we have black-eyed peas,
Yes.
collard greens, and it's supposed to be for luck and money.
Okay.
Is what it's supposed to be. It hasn't served me. It didn't serve me well in 20. I'm like, you know what? We're going to break this tradition. I'm not going to do it.
I have been gainfully employed the entire time, and I have never had those on New Year's Day. Just speaking from my experience, you don't need it.
Is that a thing in Florida as well? There in Tallahassee, Jesse, do you do black-eyed peas and greens?
We do. We actually had a food truck at the brewery that specializes in Southern cooking, and I had a ton of collard greens myself. No black-eyed peas, though.
I can't argue with that.
I do love me some collard greens. As a guy from the Northwest who never had them before I moved down here, I am so on board with those.
I know a lot of Northern friends and that don't know the Southern food and that, but with only a few exceptions, most of them that try are like, that's some pretty good eating there.
Right.
You got there.
You look at it, it's like, wow, that's wet shrubbery. Why would I eat that? Then you start eating it and like, hold up, this is really good.
Because it's got 20 pounds of salt and pork fat
That's
in there
right.
with it.
That,
man.
you
That's
don't
what
see
makes
that
it
right up
good.
front.
Right.
They don't advertise that. It's like, oh, it's green. It's good for you.
It looks so healthy.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But after the new year, I did have some good beers. We visited Variant Brewing, one of our favorites over there in Roswell. We had a few beers from them. One I really enjoyed. They had a Parallax V2, their Northeast IPA, and that was just crazy good. And we got a preview of one they're actually launching here real soon. I think just launched. It's a Bananas Foster Stout, and it had a good amount of coconut, cinnamon, banana-y flavor.
Banana-y?
Banana-y,
Yeah.
but it was tasty.
I find that cinnamon quickly overwhelms a beer, and that was at a perfect level. That was really
It's right
good.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one that's fairly new to Georgia that we've enjoyed when we've got them before, Lakewood Brewing out of Fort Worth. Their Temptress Stouts are here, and we got a bottle of the coconut Temptress. We got to enjoy
Quite
that.
nice. Quite nice.
Really good stuff. But a disappointer, Brian. We had a disappointer.
We did, yes.
So Jay Wakefield out of Florida, big fan of the stuff they do. I've had them at Beer Fest and around, but they're just sending some stuff to Georgia. I think fairly recently. It's been a little while, but not too much longer ago. But we
not since August. Let me tell you that.
Right. So, but we got they had a can of Entanglement here. Is it a double or just single IPA?
I think it was just an IPA. Yeah.
But it was an August date that we bought in August 2020.
That we bought in January.
We bought in January 2021, and unfortunately, it really did show its age there. So,
one caveat: the can art was really cool. Not that matters. You can't drink the can art.
And I won't hold that
against
them that we got that one, because it's one. Like I said, I've enjoyed the other stuff they did, so it was just one that had sat on the shelf. And Brian, before we move on, a little announcement here, a little reach around and pat on our own backs here. The Beer Guys Radio podcast version surpassed 100,000 downloads in 2020. So streams and downloads of our show over 100,000 times. So thank you to everybody that listened on the radio as well as the podcast. Yeah. It's our first year to surpass 100,000. So we're pretty excited about that.
Well, Tim, I think it's time for the beers of the week.
Now it's time for our beers of the week. Brought to you by The Nest, craft beer and barbecue in downtown Kennesaw, Georgia. TheNestKennesaw.com.
Well, Brian, as always, as you know how we do it, we've got a lot of great beers to sample. Lake Tribe was kind enough to send us up some for the show here. We pre-gamed with their Satsuma wheat, and a Satsuma, for those that don't know, is an orange, like a mandarin type of orange. So, and I found out that most canned mandarins are Satsuma oranges, but it was super tasty in the beer. Really nice beer there. We have currently moved on to their Chopped Hazy IPA. We also have their Red Cloud IPA, Camp Citra Dry Hop Sour, and a little Old Chief IPA that they call an extra special IPA. And Jesse, we'll talk to you a little later about what makes this an extra special IPA. So, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The Beer Guys have the scoop.
Extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, so it's resolution season, and Big Beer is getting out in front of it. Hams is offering 50 lucky people a, quote, broken resolution preparedness kit. They're calling it the Hamergency Kit. I love this.
Terrible.
I love this so much.
You did a ham joke last week.
This pays off handsomely, Tim.
Oh, no.
And it includes a gift card good for a 6-pack of hams, a cooler-themed hams, and most importantly, 5 pounds of restaurant-quality, quote-unquote, bacon.
That's not ham.
They
could have went with the theme here.
Yeah, they could have gone ham. They could have properly gone ham. So if you feel like going ham, you have until January 13th to enter the contest on their website. Hat tip to AmericanCraftBeer.com for the heads up on this one. And yes, I have already entered this because I want to win.
Get it, Brian. Did they have anything about if you're in the industry, you can't enter?
No, well, not that I saw, and I would lie anyway. So they can't prove anything.
Right.
So it's been a tough year for bars and restaurants, but liquor stores are nearing sales records during 2020, or did near sales records during 2020, according to the Star Tribune. This, of course, due in large part to restrictions and closures that applied to bars and restaurants, but not to liquor stores. While all of us were noticing the run on toilet paper back in March, liquor stores were seeing the same kind of frenzied buying, with sales doubling for the first 2 months and staying considerably up for the rest of 2020. And in some cases, there are still shortages of a variety of alcohol products, and it's a problem in some areas all over the country. So, yeah.
No Mike Nate is a beer buyer for a local liquor store, and he's mentioned to us that they were up quite a bit. We've heard that from a few places, and unfortunately, we've heard from a few of our brewery friends that they are not up.
Yes, yeah, it's really interesting back and forth. So bad news for fans of New Zealand hops. A freak hailstorm decimated half of the hops from the Motueka area of New Zealand on the day after Christmas. What a terrible day after Christmas presents. Apparently the hailstones were about the size of your thumbnail, and they absolutely shredded the vines. And in some cases, like 50% of the crop is just completely gone.
I did see where they said that there was not a single varietal that was totally wiped out between the various hop farms.
So at least we have that going.
So there should be some available, but probably just not quite as much. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break. But we'll be back very soon with more from Lake Tribe Brewing.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand. So if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to Lake Tribe Brewing.
So, Jesse, thanks again for joining us. We do appreciate it. And I'm going to do a little step back here. We mentioned in the first segment that we tried your Satsuma wheat. Now, I wasn't familiar with Satsumas by that name, but reading up on them a little bit, it sounds like I've probably eaten them before and didn't even know it. But is that something that's kind of specific to your area?
Yeah, it's actually a new crop that's being grown quite a lot around this area. It's more cold resistant, so you can grow it this far north in Florida, and that helps it avoid the greening problem that's going on in South Florida, affecting the citrus fruits. So I got in touch with a local Satsuma farmer, and we came up with this beer idea, and it's kind of really snowballed into something that is a crowd favorite around here.
It's crazy to think that you have to worry about cold weather conditions in Florida, in any part
Right.
of Florida.
Sure.
I guess you do occasionally get cold enough down there to even snow. So
Depends on
Yeah.
the crop that you're growing there.
That's a good
Absolutely.
point. Yeah.
So, and from what I see, it's apparently a very juicy little orange, but the flavor profile, we were talking about it a little bit here, and I got almost like a tart white wine kind of
Yeah.
citrus, or maybe a peachy citrus.
Sweet and
how-
tart both.
How would you describe the Satsuma as compared to like a regular orange?
Yeah, I think it's got more tang to it than some of your typical oranges, but it's got a real beautiful color to it if you can actually see the fresh orange juice. And I've been told that sometimes they will cut some of the other orange juices with Satsuma orange juice because it's just a more aesthetically pleasing juice itself. So it's really taken off here.
Tasty, pretty oranges.
They're really good. I would think that they would cut it with that because seems like a more complex orange flavor to me than your typical. But I'm not sure how much the beer itself may be contributing.
And there's your orange education for the week.
Orange education.
That didn't work.
Wow.
We've got to stop.
Ouch.
We've got to quit. Well, Jesse, Lake Tribe Brewing. So I saw here the name. We'll start with that. The name comes from a group that you were involved with, correct?
That's right. So whenever I was growing up, my dad put me in the YMCA Indian Guides, which is, for those that aren't familiar, very similar to Boy Scouts, but it's run by the YMCA program at the time. And our group name was Lake Tribe. So whenever my brother and I came up with the idea to open up a brewery, it seemed like a fitting name to pay homage to that group because we were all so close and had such good memories.
So you said it was a group kind of from the younger YMCA days. Are you still in contact with the other group members?
Yeah. We created pretty tight bonds, so a lot of those guys come to the brewery pretty regularly. We've had a lot of beers named after different memories from back then. But it's something that we had really great relationships built on and great memories.
See, I was in the Scouts, and so I did all the camping trips and that. And one thing that was always popular in Scouts for the new kids is when you go camping, you'd have to go snipe hunting. Was that a thing with the YMCA group as well? Did you guys do snipe hunting?
We did not do snipe hunting. At least our group didn't. We did like to get in rival group fights, and we're known for the rough group.
The thugs of the
Camping
YMCA.
groups.
Brian, do you know about snipe hunting?
I've heard references to it. I don't know
Yeah.
much about it because I unfortunately I never did any camp
Any
stuff.
of that stuff?
No, not really.
So
No.
they'd get the younger kids out there. They'd tell these snipes, at least this was our version, were these little birds that ran around on the ground. And so they'd give you some kind of bag, usually your pillowcase. You're out there, you take
Okay.
that, and they would run them towards you with flashlights. So basically, you'd get a bunch of kids out there looking like idiots, hunkered over in the woods, holding a bag to catch a bird that didn't exist.
That's what I figured.
So
Yeah.
the older kids would run with the flashlights and say, "Hey, they're coming your way. Get ready." And so you're all excited down there. I never caught one, Brian.
Interestingly. Yeah. Okay.
I never caught one. Yes, absolutely. So you started homebrewing in 2010. So and the brewery opened, if I look correctly, 2015. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got all licensed up, but didn't actually open up officially until the very beginning of 2015.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm curious because I know for a long time, a lot of people involved in the brewery were like part-timing it and working full-time jobs in engineering fields or whatever. Are you still doing that, or are you full-time with the brewery now?
I am still doing that, although my wife might say that I've got two full-time jobs, but
Sure. That's the way it goes. Yeah, we know a lot of people that do that, getting your
Yeah.
brewery going and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of time, a little sweat equity to get it up and going. You guys started off pretty small too. Were you brewing like a keg at a time or something like that to do distribution back in 2015?
yeah, so what we did was we bought a 20-gallon pilot system to start out on, and we got licensed and permitted on that system. But the whole time we knew we were going to be scaling up. So we were getting the easy stuff out of the way with the small system while we were placing the order and doing all the construction to put the big system in. So we didn't lose any time waiting on that order placement to come and be delivered.
So Jesse, when you stepped up from that 20-gallon pilot system, how big of a system did you go to?
We went from 20 gallons to 20 barrels.
But 20 barrels. How hard was it to scale the recipes up? Were you able to dial them in pretty quickly?
Yeah, pretty quickly. There was very minor adjustments that had to be made whenever I scaled it up. Something where I would notice, but I don't think anyone else would probably notice.
What was the hardest thing to dial in? Like maybe the hop amounts that you're using in your various editions, or
Yeah, so that was probably the amount of bitterness that I got from the hops was the main thing. For I had to scale it back on the big system because we would just get way more bitterness than we would on the smaller system.
Yeah. The good thing is that beer drinkers are very forgiving if their favorite beer changes just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
They're always really understanding.
they don't
about those
complain
kinds
at
of
all
things,
ever
right?
about that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So have you ever changed a recipe altogether and seen how that went for you?
We have a couple beers that we change the recipe slightly year to year, but I've never done any full wholesale changes and then had people complaining about it.
We've seen a couple. We've seen a couple go a little haywire.
So you mentioned that you brew that triple once a year. Is it always the same recipe, or do you kind of modify that since it's a once a year type of situation?
That one does get modified. We like to experiment with a bunch of the different new hops that comes out, and that beer in particular we had in mind with always using the newest hops that are available.
Okay.
It's always fun. Always something cool coming out to mess with there. What's been a hop that you've enjoyed? One of the new ones that's come out.
I like the Brew One, and there's a couple hops that they don't have names for yet, and I can't remember the number that.
The HBC hops there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I always forget the numbers too. Yeah, there's at least a couple of them that have a lot of oak barrel or coconut flavor to them. I'm guessing those are pretty popular down there in your neighborhood.
I don't know. I haven't tried any of the coconut heavy ones. I've read about a bunch of them, but I've been too shy to try them out.
To check them out. It's
Oh,
fun. Playing with hops, man. It's a good time.
good.
We are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back soon with more from Lake Tribe Brewing. It's Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Looking for an incredible, healthy beer to kickstart your year? Try Athletic Brewing. They are revolutionizing healthy, better-for-you beer. Their beers are all non-alcoholic, but you don't have to compromise on taste. They've won awards versus full-strength competition and start at only 50 calories. Drink more and be healthier in 2021. Check them out at athleticbrewing.com and use BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
What in tarnation?
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WVWI Radio 1, 1000 AM in Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WVWI every Saturday at 1 a.m. Now let's get back to Lake Tribe Brewing.
Jesse, we want to talk a little more about hops because we like hops, and you mentioned one that I'm not personally familiar with. So you mentioned one, I believe it was called Brewer 1. Is that correct?
Brew one, BRU1.
Okay. What's the profile on that hop?
So it's one of those new IPA hops. You can use it in wheat beers, light beers, but it really shines in the IPAs. It's known for having a lot of floral and fresh cut green pineapple notes. So it's
Okay.
pretty intense, but it really goes well in these hoppy beers, these IPAs and hazy IPAs.
Fresh cut green pineapple? Is that what you said?
Yeah, as opposed to like a Sultana hop, I think it personally has more of a sweet pineapple flavor and aroma. This one's more of it's got more of the citrusy, bright, tart almost aromas and flavor.
I could see that with some. I like floral. You don't see floral as much because tropical's so hot these days.
Oh, yeah.
But I like a nice floral character.
People going melon, going tropical, but
Melon
floral
and
is really
tropical.
nice.
It's all fruity
you hit
out
it.
there,
Yeah,
man,
it's very
so.
fruity. So I saw a reference to, quote, Lake Tribe Farms hops in a couple of your different beers. Are you growing hops there at the brewery?
So we've got like it's probably 4 foot by 10 foot planter where we had some hops that were given to us by a friend, and we threw them in there, and they took off unexpectedly, and we actually had some pretty good harvests from them, all things considered, and made a couple beers with them that were pretty popular.
Okay. What variety of hop was it?
So we had a Cascade, a Chinook, and a Simcoe plant, which we've lost track of, so we don't know which one's which.
Oh,
All right.
kind of a roll the dice
It's
and
your
see
own
what you get.
special blend.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is these hops will, even if we had a Cascade hop compared to one grown in the Pacific Northwest, it's going to be completely different anyway.
Yeah, we've seen that recently. We talked more about kind of the hop terroir, that you've seen, what you get there. I think it was is it Michigan Chinook? Was that the one that they said was different, so much different? Like
It was one of the C's. I thought it was
yeah,
Chinook or Cascade. It might
yeah,
one of those two that they grow in
Chinook is
Michigan.
what
It's
I've
got a
heard.
unique character.
yeah. That's what I
Chinook.
thought. So it's but I think it's interesting. We've shouted him out on our show here a few times. We've got a friend, Mike Barber, that grows hops here in Georgia, and
Yep.
he's experimenting with a few different varietals and kind of trying them out around places.
Have you noticed any interesting character from those hops when you use them? Are they a little bit more, different in terms of fruit or grass or pine or anything like that? Or are they similar to what you would get from the Northwest?
I think the flavor that I get the most out of really all three, just in different amounts, is melon. Now, granted, we're using fresh hops, so we're not drying them out or anything, but still, there's a whole lot of melon that we get out of the hops that we grow.
Is that something that you intend to kind of develop from there, or is it just a little side project, grow a few hops to use?
Yeah, side project. I'm not going to worry too much
Okay,
about it. If they're good, we'll use
gotcha.
them. If they're not, they're cool decoration.
That's what I was gonna say. I
Yeah.
know there's places that grow them, and it's like, oh, there's hops growing here. So
How long ago did you plant those? I'm curious, like how long you had to wait before you got some good crops. Because I think I saw a picture of some of your hops, and they look pretty impressive. Nice cluster of them.
Yeah, so it's funny. I had them in a pot and they weren't growing at my house. And then we brought them to the brewery and I put them in the planter and proceeded to let my 2-year-old daughter at the time water them. And I came back out and the whole planter was completely flooded, but they really took off. So took less than a year.
okay, they were thirsty hops. They
Yeah,
drank it
exactly.
all up and
Yeah.
grew there. Yeah. Good stuff. We want to talk to you a little bit about the Tallahassee beer scene. Like I said, we really love Tallahassee. It's a great market for us. We've traveled down there for beer festivals and to meet with our affiliate station, WVFT, Real Talk 93.3. So you can hear Beer Guys Radio in there. Saturdays is it 6 p.m., Brian?
I think
It
that's
is.
what you said.
Saturdays
Yeah.
at 6 p.m. So how is it's been a couple years since we've been down there. How's the Tallahassee beer scene growing?
Oh, it's growing. I mean, it seems like all the other breweries in town had the same thought that we did, where you've got this cool city that is ripe for some good craft beer, and it just hadn't happened yet. And then all of a sudden, everyone popped up within what seemed like a year of each other.
Sure. Yeah. An emerging beer scene is a fun place to be
Oh, for sure.
because we've been able to experience that here in Georgia. And that's no disrespect to the guys that have been here 25 years or whatever, but we've had a surge, a rebirth in the last 3 to 5 years. And it's really exciting to be there and kind of grow through that.
Was it grown like 100% in like 3 to 5 years or
Oh,
something like
more
that?
than that.
Yeah.
Almost 300%.
300%?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just been crazy. Do you know how many breweries you have in, say, the greater Tallahassee area right now?
I think there are 4 currently. I know there's another brew pub that's weeks away from opening up, but they haven't officially opened up yet.
Do you guys do any collaborations together? I mean, with all of you being so
Right there.
tight knit
Yeah.
in that area, it's not like you have to travel very far.
Yeah, I would say we did one collaboration with the Fool's Fire Brewing. That's the brew pub that's about to reopen. And then we did a collaboration with Halpatter Brewing. They're just about an hour and a half down the road from us. But we haven't done anything with any of the other Tallahassee breweries.
Okay. And I think there's Proof, Ology, Deep
Deep, yeah.
are in that area. Speaking of that, I think when we talked to Ology, they mentioned they were going to start a distillery focusing on rum. And we're seeing that a lot with our breweries here in Georgia. Is that anything you've ever looked at? Interested in doing some distilled beverages?
It's crossed my mind, and then I think about all the stuff that I've got to do just for the brewery, and
Just for the beer, right?
I don't want to add any more to my to-do list.
Yeah,
You don't want a third full-time
I
job?
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
gonna say,
it
yeah,
does seem to make sense.
Yeah, we saw a lot of breweries here in Georgia because, the way it works, and I'm not sure how this licensing changes from state to state, but they would get their distillery license and then purchase like bulk, even if it was just to have available there at the brewery. They package it themselves, put their name on it, and that way they'd have a more diverse offering there at the brewery. We've seen that. New Realm, I think, was one of the
yeah.
first to do it, but we've seen several others that some are making cocktails or
Dry County.
yeah,
Also
Dry
did, yeah.
County does that. They've turned that into, they actually do some RTD cocktails now there. So,
Well,
because isn't that a challenge, Jesse? Is not everybody drinks beer, but you want to get as many people in your tap when you're able to.
Exactly.
When you're not in a pandemic, you want to get as many people into the tap room as possible. So you want to have those beverage options there, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're always trying to think of how to brew a beer for the non-beer drinker.
Yeah, it's something we see, just a lot of breweries here doing a lot of different things, whether it's seltzer, which you're a big fan of, Brian.
Oh, I just absolutely
All the
love it.
seltzers,
Just
get all
so
the
in love
seltzer
with
that
it.
you can. But we see the seltzers, the different, vodka and bourbons and different things that these places are doing to have a beverage for everybody that comes to the tap room.
I love a good mixed drink, and I've had some.
Sure.
Was it the Cutwater gin and tonic?
Yeah.
Love those to death. Yeah.
Don't judge me. You make me a vodka slushy. I may drink it in July. I may sit there and drink it up and have a good time with it. Yeah. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Lake Tribe Brewing.
Looking for a great craft beer to enjoy at home? Get your beer to go at the Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia. Choose from their 48 taps to enjoy there with some tasty barbecue and take some home with you for later. Grab a crispy Pilsner, a nice tart sour, or a bold stout to sit by the fire. Just bring your growler in and choose a favorite or two to take with you. It's our beer, your growler at the Nest for your brews to go. Check out the beer and food menus before you visit at thenestkennesaw.com.
You don't have to pass on great beer to stick to your dry January goals. Athletic Brewing has tasty, alcohol-free craft beer to help you stay on track. And you don't have to skip on taste. Athletics beers have won awards versus full-strength competition. With IPAs, stouts, golden ales, and more, there's a style for every palate. And starting at only 50 calories, you can still kick back with a cold one guilt-free. Head to athleticbrewing.com to get some brews headed your way, and make sure to use code BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Lake Tribe Brewing.
Jesse, we just opened up an extra special IPA. Old Chief, can you tell us what in the world an extra special IPA is?
To be honest, I just wanted to give it some other name besides just regular Imperial IPA or double IPA, and I kind of played off the old bitter, extra special bitter theme and just did it with the IPAs.
Works for me. No
Okay.
arguments on my end.
So-
Absolutely.
In the scale, if you weren't calling it extra special, what would you call it? Would you call it IPA or double IPA?
Double
double.
IPA, yeah.
All right.
All right.
Wasn't sure about that. I was wondering if there was an ESB element to that, but in the name,
I
the
wonder
thought
that too.
behind
If
it,
maybe
yeah.
that. But I get it.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, talking single, double, triple, all of this. You mentioned that you have your special once a year triple IPA. Are you seeing more of those down your way? Because we sure are seeing a lot more triple IPAs hitting up our way.
I don't think we're seeing them quite as much as you guys are, but they're showing up here and there.
Okay. All right. And I'm a fan. I like the maltiness, the booziness, the nice hot profile there with the malt. I support the triple IPA movement.
I thought I was in heaven when the Dippas came around, and I realized I was wrong. I wasn't quite in heaven yet until I've found out about the Tippas.
Next year,
Now I am.
Kippas.
Kippas, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
What's the next one after that? Fippas? I don't even
Where
know.
do we go? Quinn, Sex,
Is it
Sippa?
Quinpas? Sippas? I don't even know.
Who knows? Who knows? It's crazy. Now, on the IPA front, though, again, it's funny how many people we're seeing running into these common themes that may not even necessarily. It's not like they're collaborating on it, but the black IPA that you do, Black Spot is your black IPA, correct?
Correct.
And is that something you've been doing for a while, or is that a new brew for you?
That's a beer that I did back in my homebrew days, and I started hearing people requesting it because we had done it one other time, and it was pretty popular. And then with the pandemic, we had some openings in our brew schedule, so I brewed it up this year for the first time in 2 or 3 years.
Now, a black IPA release on January 1st, that seems like a bad omen to me, Jesse. That seems a little
Yes.
rough there.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. Were you meaning to make a statement with the January 1st release?
Honestly, I hadn't even thought about it. It just
Okay, all right.
that's the way it worked
Well,
out.
you know what? If 2021 doesn't work out, we know who to
We
come
know
to.
who did it.
Yeah.
Because isn't a black spot a threat between old timey pirates? That's what I recall it being.
Yeah.
Beats
Treasure
me.
Island,
I
that's
don't know.
right.
See?
Treasure Island. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
When you get the black spot, that means you're marked for possibly for death.
Yeah.
So I mean, 2021 has been marked for death already. And I believe you released that you had a can release in the first of the year. So it was from the very outset, 2021 is cursed by Lake Tribe.
Take that,
Tim.
2021. Take that. Well, let's talk about happier times. Your Wild Ales, your Wildwood series of beers. And we saw here a few releases from that. Sleigh Ride. Is that Casa Rosa? Is that the way you pronounce it?
Yep, Casa Rasa.
So tell us a little more about your Wildwood series. What do you do there?
So what we do is once a year we'll brew up a sour base, like a Berliner Weiss, and then we'll add it to a bunch of different barrels that had different liquors or wine in them, and then we'll give them some special treatments and let the wild microbes that are naturally in the barrels go crazy and turn the beer into something new. And once they're ready, that's when we release them.
I'm particularly interested in the sleigh ride. I think you released that recently, but you added a bunch of herbs. Like, is that a peppermint wild ale effectively? Is that what that wound up being?
You could say that it's not overly heavy on the peppermint, but it's got a lot of those spices that you kind of associate with the winter time, with Christmas, and it still has that the sour, wild flavors that actually pair pretty nicely with the spices.
Now, are you continuing to do the Wildwood series? Because I saw that there was on social media that one of the ones that came out might have been the final of them, or is it just the final for the year?
Final for the year, yeah. We do different iterations every year, and some of the barrels take longer for those beers to develop, so they will either be earlier or later in the year.
Gotcha. Now you've done some beers with tea as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We created a relationship with a local tea company and have come up with some really cool beers.
One of the best stouts I tried, shared with us by our friend Skinny DeVille of Atlantucky Brewing, Nappy Roots.
AKA Nappy Roots, yes.
But it was one was it Against the Grain? Or was it was not, was it? But anyhow, it was a Vietnamese stout with black tea, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I started telling this story and I forget literally all the details of it. Anyhow, it was a really nice beer
tea in it.
with a nice black tea note, but you don't see a lot of tea beer. So, Jesse, what are some of the tea beers that you've done?
Well, we've done amber ale infused with a cinnamon rooibos red tea, and it's probably our most popular tea beer. We call it Steep Mountain. We'll play on words with the steep.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. And then we've done some some citrusy ginger turmeric teas with infused in our Satsuma wheat, which actually works really nicely as well.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that being really nice for sure.
Didn't you do like a bergamot or an Earl Grey as well at some point recently?
Yes, yes, we did that as well. That was infused in our sour base, and it was a really nice. The bergamot adds a really nice flavor to it.
We had a local brewery do
We
something,
did.
yeah, Berliner, a little bit of lactose in it, which problematic for me, but really enjoyable tea. I mean, Earl Grey,
I
bergamot in it,
thought
it's really nice.
that I would hate that. Earl Grey tea to me didn't sound appealing at all in a beer, but it's a Lord Grey, and then they do
Lord Fogg.
and Lord
Yeah.
Fogg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Jesse, we've got a couple minutes left here. We're going to have a little fun with it. We saw on your website you have a food and beer pairing guide, but we know you guys have an outdoor theme, so we're going to ask you here for some of your beers, what outdoor activity is going to pair well with these beers? So if I'm sipping a Satsuma wheat, what should I be doing outdoors with this beer?
Satsuma wheat, that's a beach beer for me. So you've got to be in the sand watching the sun come up, because you've got your orange juice in it, so you can drink it for breakfast.
Count me in for that.
I'm on
I'm
board.
all about it. Absolutely. Now, what if I picked up this chopped hazy IPA and I want to go out and enjoy a gorgeous day? What am I going to be doing?
Okay, chopped. That's going to be probably on the dock. You're fishing, but not real
Okay.
intensely.
Okay.
You're just enjoying the fishing.
I'm disappointed you didn't say cutting firewood, especially like pine tree firewood, because
Chopped.
that seems like that is just out of the park. How about the Red Cloud IPA?
Red Cloud IPA. You're in a canoe on a spring-fed river, letting the current take you. You're not doing much paddling, just steering.
That
I sense a theme
nails it.
here. It's
Yeah.
not just outdoors. You got to get on the water.
You got to be
Yeah.
on the water.
You got to get on the water. And chopped, when I saw this, because we're in Atlanta and we got the Braves here,
Yeah.
I thought about the old tomahawk chop.
Tomahawk
but
chop,
that
yeah.
is also, the chop is also a Tallahassee thing, correct?
That's right. Deion Sanders
You got your
brought it to the
Seminoles there, huh?
Braves.
Okay. See, I had no
There you
idea
go.
there. So, see, we're getting more education.
You got to
Brian.
be on the water because it's in the name. Lake Tribe. There's water
It's-
in the name.
It's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I should have seen that one
You
coming,
should
Brian.
have,
That's for
yes.
sure. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us, sharing your beers and sharing your story. We greatly appreciate it. If folks want to learn more about Lake Tribe Brewing and what's going on, where should they go to find that out?
We've got a website, laketribebrewing.com. You can get us on Facebook or Twitter, Lake Tribe Brewing. We're not hard to find.
Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with Parliament Brewing Company. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.